Hello and welcome to your astrological vibrations for Monday, September 2nd, 2024 by Gaia Blooming. I'm Mimi and our energy mantra for today is I focus on wellness in this present moment. And happy new moon day. If you didn't notice, I posted a video for September 1st with some of the shenanigans that were going on. So if you didn't check that out, you may want to check that out because we're going to be feeling those things in the background through today, mainly Uranus going retrograde and Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn. But today we have a new moon in Virgo, and I feel like this new moon, it's interesting to me because, you know, we have Uranus retrograde in Taurus, Pluto retrograded back into Capricorn, and here we have the new moon in Virgo. So all these earth signs are activated. All these physical present signs are activated right now. And it feels like it's because we're meant to shift the physical paradigm here on this planet. And Virgo is showing us how. So let's lean in. We have a new moon today at 6:55 p.m. Pacific time. This new moon is at 11 degrees, which is a master degree, and it is a healing degree. And so we're leaning into the healing. We're leaning into the wellness and even the call to mastery that the 11 degree brings. It's like, hey, you need to level yourself up a little bit. Now, Virgo's a complicated sign because Virgo, I truly believe, is the sign of the healer, but it's not the sign of the healer because it gets stuck or dwells in the sickness. It's the sign of the healer because Virgo has the capability to see the wholeness of anything, the healed version of anything. And so we're all being asked to lean into that. And I do believe that leaning into seeing the world a little bit more well, seeing the wellness of the world, seeing where there is healing taking place can help us all have a better reality. I don't know if that's the right word, but like a more balanced reality. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. So what I love today is this new moon energy and the connection of things that's happening. We actually have Mercury today in Leo trining Chiron. So we've gone through this. This is our third pass of Mercury in Leo connecting to Chiron. And each pass hopefully has brought deeper acceptance of ourselves. That's part of the wholeness and the wellness that aligning with Virgo can bring, is like the acceptance of ourselves and therefore the acceptance of others in their holy wholeness. This can also show us where we may have some stinking thinking that we need to shift, that we need to heal. And it can also show us where we may need to pull love into our healing experiences. Now, I can speak for my experience with illness versus wellness, that I don't necessarily feel loving towards the illness, and yet it has taught me so much that has enabled me to help so many others who are experiencing similar things. And for that, I can love my experiences that I've had with it. There's always something I think that we can lean into. And I think that's part of embracing this new moon in Virgo. Where can we lean into the goodness? Where can we lean into the wellness? The Sabian symbol for 11 degrees Virgo is, in her baby, a mother sees her deep longing for a son answered. And so it actually speaks of manifestation in this, and it's a reminder that what we long for, what we desire, what we want is always in process of manifestation in one way or another. Sometimes it doesn't look exactly like we want it to look, but it's always in process. And recognizing that, also recognizing that what we don't want, but what we focus our attention on, namely reality, also manifests. And so I think it's really important to remember in this, how much focus are you giving to what is and what you don't want, and how much focus are you giving to what may not yet be, but what you do want. I think that in general, we as humans spend a lot more time focusing on what is disappointing us, what's making us frustrated, what's making us angry, etc., than what brings us joy, where we want to lean into, what feels like wellness. And so this is part of the hocus pocus focus of this new moon in Virgo energy. Give at least as much attention to what you do want as you do to what you don't. Now, the other transit that we have happening today feeds into this. So we have Mars finishing up in the sign of Gemini, and it is connecting into Neptune. Today is the day where I believe Neptune retrogrades back to 28. But I think, I'm not sure if Mars and Neptune meet at 29 or 28. They're hovering right there in the chart that I'm looking at. But it's those final degrees. But we have the meeting of Mars and Neptune this evening. And Mars and Gemini can be very focused on what is catching its attention. And reality is really good at catching our attention, isn't it? It's like, oh, look at that thing that's happening there. Oh, and that news article. And oh, that story that's happening there. And we get sucked in. And I can tell you from my Gemini, my personal Gemini experience as a Gemini rising, my brain loves the stimulation of something new, a story, anything salacious, whatever. It's just like, oh, it's something new to soak up. Now, it is squaring Neptune in Pisces. And Neptune in Pisces can be a little bit in a fog. It can be a little bit etheric and drifty and whatever. But it reminds us, too, that there's a spiritual story. There's a spiritual connection to everything that's happening. Every little sparkly, shiny thing that catches our attention. There is a spiritual connection. There's a spiritual cord somewhere in there. We can get so caught up in the day-to-day, into the shiny, into the what's happening now, and forget about the magic of the Pisces energy. Virgo and Pisces are in opposition for a reason. They work best together. So Virgo also holds that reality key, but reminds us, don't forget to look for God. Don't forget to look for the good. Don't forget to look for miracles. Don't forget to hold space for these energies. Don't forget to meditate and connect in. I've been doing a thing for the last few months, and it has helped me profusely with any given day. When I am first conscious, even if I'm not completely awake, because a lot of times I'm semi-conscious in my dream state but not awake yet. As soon as I'm conscious enough to know the wake up is happening, I start infusing my day with blessings and prayers, and even just saying today is going to be a perfect day. No matter what happens, it's a perfect day, and leaning into that. And I have been watching my experience with reality shifting, and so I encourage you to lend a little time to the goodness, to the sweetness. I also spend my time before bed blessing everything that I've experienced in the day. That which I consider the good, that which I consider the bad, the people who drive me crazy, I extra bless them. And it is changing things. It's shifting things. It is a paradigm shift within myself, and this paradigm within myself is shifting things around me. And I encourage that for you in these energies as well. That being said, you may feel a little frustrated with this Mars-Neptune energy, and even with this new moon. I think what we get frustrated is because we are becoming less patient creatures and more used to, I can have the answer I want immediately. I can have it now. And these transits do bode towards patience. They are these things take time. Even if you're bless this day, it doesn't mean that suddenly it's going to be blessed or that it's going to feel blessed. So keep that in mind and see how you can dedicate some time of goodness to your daily reality every day and see what shifts and what happens for you. I said that I was going to do this with Venus in Libra. I pulled one of the Divine Abundance cards, and I pulled Expansiveness. And it says, eternity is far more creative than the rigid, constrained, and exhausted ego. And I thought this card was so perfect for today because the world is so much more expansive and has so many solutions. Solutions that come from soul, that come from goodness, that come from God, that are miraculous than our ego that tends to be protective of us, which is not a bad thing, but can bring up every past challenging thing that's happened and, infuse that into whatever we are creating in this very moment. So keep that all in mind with your hocus pocus seed setting focus with this new moon. Now, card-wise, I have some really interesting cards. Topping off with the Inner Voice card, really tuning into our intuition. And this is the High Priestess. And I think there's something to the High Priestess. There's some level of respect and honor in the High Priestess. And to me, this is a call to see that within yourself, your own divine light. We have the Trust card. And I think this is really good for September because September has some intensity to it, not to mention an eclipse coming in. Can you trust this process, even if it doesn't look good in every given moment? And can you hold space for what I personally like to believe, and that is that God can take the nefarious and use it for good. God, Spirit, Universe, it knows what it's doing. It has the plan. Love has already won. It's already happened. But our work is aligning with this good. Our work is aligning with God. I find I've been using the word God more because more and more I'm associating good and God together. Whereas universe doesn't fit as much, right? Source and God, source and good, it's all good, right? But if you hear me using God more, that's why. Because I'm like, good and God. It's all good. It's all God. I like leaning into that. So here's the card for the trust. Can you trust this process unfolding? Can you get into your place in the flow? I think sometimes this is the hardest part because I tend to paddle upstream. I tend to be like in resistance. Can you find your personal flow in the unfolding? 2 more cards left. Which one? We're going to go here. Not to say that it's not going to be intense, right? September has some deeply intense moments. The finishing up of Pluto in Capricorn has some intensity to it. Be aware of that energy. With Mars finishing up in the sign of Gemini, it's actually working with Pluto. And so you may find various bouts of frustration and not feeling empowered. But please go watch the video from yesterday, from September 1st. Pluto in Capricorn is meant to empower your personal sense of authority, your personal sense of sovereignty. So keep that in mind, right? Even in the intensity, how can you feel empowered in the moment? It's going to be up to you. And I think a lot of times it's how we talk to ourselves about whatever is unfolding. Final card, the Silence card. This is a beautiful card to receive in new moon seed planting energy. Yes, it is happening. It is unfolding. Connect into your higher self. Can you trust the process and give it the time that it needs to unfold? There is a beautiful future that we are all co-creating together. What does it look like for you? It may look different from my personal vision of it, but feed in what feels important to you. Feel in what feels loving to you. And I trust that us in our most authentic selves are going to unveil something wonderful and beautiful. So, gonna leave that there for today. You can book a reading. I encourage you, if you want an eclipse reading, to reach out sooner than later to get on the calendar. The first eclipse is the 17th. The second eclipse is October 2nd. And they are in Pisces and Libra, respectively. And besides all that, the better it gets, the better it gets. There's more than enough love in the world for you. You have the power, and remember who you are. For you and we all are the soul ocean. Namaste.